Hello there, it's Mr. K, the mediocre painter, and I've been painting miniatures for some 30 odd years, and I'm starting YouTube videos to try and teach the beginner how to get into the wargaming hobby from a miniatures construction and painting perspective, because I've made the mistakes so you don't have to. Now, I was hoping in this week's episode I was going to follow on from our previous videos around priming and base coating, which is up here somewhere, and talk about the wash phase. Unfortunately, I don't have quite the time that I was hoping to have this week to do that, so I'm going to do a quick video about something else that's related to what I've been working on recently. So recently I was working on some models, Eyes of the Nine actually, from Shadespire, and they're Tzeentch models, and I've never really painted anything from that sort of field before. I've done Khorne, I've done Slaanesh, I've done Nurgle, but never really done anything with Tzeentch, and there's lots of sort of blues and yellows and things like that going on. And I haven't really used that colour palette for some time, and I discovered that my paints weren't in quite as good a shape as I was really hoping them to be, and of course many of them are like 20 odd years old, and I hadn't really maintained them as well as I really should have. And it just brought something to my attention that, you know, maybe I should pass that knowledge on in terms of how do you take care of your paint pots, because at the end of the day this stuff isn't cheap and it's £3 or £4 a pop. We should probably do a good job of trying to take care of it. So first things first, when you're actually painting, do remember that the longer you leave the bottle exposed to the air, the more chance of the paint going off. So that's why I emphasise in some of my other videos is, you know, once you've got that paint pot open, you put it onto your wet palette, close the paint pot and close it good and proper as well. It's really easy not to close these kinds of bottles properly. These are the flip top bottles. The old Citadel ones or the Coat d'Arms ones are like this, as are the Formula P3s, and the same goes for the more modern Citadel ones, which actually have a different problem to them, which I'll describe in a moment. So the problem with these kinds of paint pots is that the way the lip works is where the paint comes out where the lip is, and it'll fall onto this edge here. And what that will mean is that when you actually come to push fit it again, the lid won't actually fit properly. So what you need to do is to basically take a knife and basically push out any crud or whatever that's basically got trapped in there, and just basically push it off like so, and then basically you'll be able to close the lid much better. So that'll give you a much better seal. But also you'll notice in these kinds of lids you'll have a bunch of junk as well, actually in the lid piece here as well. I don't know whether you can see that right there. And so basically you need to get it out of there too. And you know, acrylic paint, you know, will sort of dry like a plastic, and you should be able to just basically push a knife in there and get a little bit out, and then just pull it out like so. There we go. And you can see it's like a gooey plastic almost. There we go. And you need to really get in there and get it all properly cleaned out, because, you know, that is preventing you from getting a good seal on that lid, and as a consequence of which, over time the paint will go off and it'll get all bitty, and eventually it'll just go hard and it won't be any use to you anymore. But if you do that, you should get a nice tight seal on that, and it'll be good for a very long period of time. I mean, I've got miniature pots that have lasted 30 something years, and so if you do take good care of them, they will last. Now, on the more modern Citadel pots, these get a really bad reputation for the paint drying out and such. Now, one of the reasons is the formulation's actually a lot thicker than it was in the past. That's one of the reasons. But also the other reason is this thing here. This thing is the notch that they put on to keep the lid tight from the factory, that you break when you first open the lid. And often you forget to actually take it all off. And if you don't do that, then what happens is it can prevent the actual pot from closing properly because it gets in the way. And so you end up with this situation whereby you can see that this is at an angle here. It's not actually properly closed at the back. So what you need to do is to grab hold of that piece and just twist it off. Now some people will say, well, actually that piece is actually kind of useful because it can help you keep the lid actually open when you want to use it and things, but you shouldn't have the pot open for a very long period of time if you're using a wet palette. And it's really not a good idea to leave these pots open because there's only 12 mils worth of paint in here and it will dry out pretty quick, smart. That's one of the other reasons why people complain about these pots. But these pots are an attempt to actually give you a better seal. You can see they've got a longer lip on them to try and prevent the situation whereby the paint catches in the edge. So there is an attempt to actually try and improve on that original simple coat d'arms paint pot, which is what also Private Press P3s use as well. So there is some attempt there to try and make it better, but also these suffer from the same kind of problem. They do get the gunk sort of trapped in here on the edge, especially because of that little lip of plastic, and so you need to basically do the same thing with a knife and pry that stuff out so that you can get a really decent seal with the actual pot, which at this particular time, as you can see, it's not really behaving itself in terms of wanting to come out. But it will do eventually. You just need to keep working at it and it will come out. And then you should be able to, once you've got that gunk out, you'll be able to get a good seal with that particular tine. Next, you're moving on to these kinds, the dropper bottle kinds. These don't suffer from quite so many troublesome problems, to be perfectly honest, and it's one of the reasons why people really like them. It's because there's only a little wee hole at the top there. You know, they're never exposed to the air that significantly, so you don't really have an awful lot to worry about. But you do want to keep just the nib just in good shape, you know, just scrape off the excess every now and then, poke a pin down there every now and then, you know, clean the top of the lid, that kind of thing, just to keep these things in good shape. And also make sure they're nice and tight. Again, it's easy just to put these on lightly and not actually put them on tight. So it's a good idea, you know, once a month, just go round your paints, just check the lids are on properly, tighten them up properly. The other thing as well, in terms of keeping the paint in decent shape, is, you know, when you use them, make sure you give them a good old shake so they're nicely mixed when you do actually use them, and it'll make the paint last longer if you do that. Also, it'll be the right colour when you actually come to use it. But also, paint agitators are a really good idea. So these are just a couple of little glass beads that I bought on the interwebs, and you can get these on eBay for not very much. So a couple of these in each of your paint pots is a really good idea to help with the agitation when you come to shake. So you basically just, you know, drop a couple in there, close the lid, and you can hear them rattling away there, agitating the paint, making sure the paint nicely mixes, but also it'll keep the paint in better shape as well, having those balls actually in there. So it's actually a really good thing to actually do. So that's it. Fairly simple. You know, there's not an awful lot to it. Just, you know, just try and keep on top of it. You know, once a month or something like that, just go through your paints, make sure the lids are on properly and give them a bit of a clean. If you do that, your paints will last you pretty much a lifetime, or at least until they run out. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please subscribe and like and comment. That's all for now.